Theories as tools. Being is what you experience. Your being includes the subjective. Psychology can't ignore subjectivity. Biology can ignore subjectivity. Psychology applied science. Issues of value, optimal being and suboptimal being, suffering and health. Being as what is currently and becoming as how it's going to transform, but how it should to transform. What it is that it's here and now and where you are, what you are, and then figure out what are you going to do with that. Generally motivated to make it better, how to make it better, and you are instantly on the domain of values. But, while you are trying to make things better, you fight against entropy, tendency of complicated things to fall apart. So requires energy to make things better. Life it's an uphill battle. You are pushing against great forces that are acting in oppositions to your existence. Existentialism, life itself it's a problem. Psychopathology in some sense is built right into the nature of human existence, because we are limited, we suffer. We are limited and we are working against forces that are greater than we are, and we are pushed on the opposite direction. Not only life it's being and becoming, also it's the problem of being and becoming. It's helpful because stops you from being isolated, because all we are stuck with that. So, if you have a problem it's not you, being alive itself it's a problem. People think, if life is operating optimal, that will make them happy. But the idea that you can live in an optimal manner from long periods of time, it's not how it is. So, you grow, you need to realize of the limitations of being, and find out a way where you can exist. And I think that you can do that. I think people are tougher than they think. Capable to facing of reality, although life fundamentally is tragic, it's tragic because we are limited. Problem of being and becoming, it's the problem of what is and what should be. So, science concentrate of the subset of what is, its concern with the structure of the world as it presents itself, but not to subjectivity, but to the collective mind. Help us to differentiate, what we both can experience, and what only you can experience, and what can I only experience. That allow us to develop tools and technologies that increase the quality of life and well-being. The problem is that science can say that the reality that deals with it's the reality of the shared experience, but tend to go farther than that. There is no other reality but what shared experience presents to us. That's where things get troublesome. We can't just ignore the subjective, cause problems, because that's what you are primarily stuck with. How do you deal with your isolated individual existence, and what you make of it? But science can't answer those questions. Doesn't mean that those questions should be ignored. Those questions need to be answered, because they are part of the domain of problems that beset human being. So, you need to use the scientific domain, and the moral domain. The moral domain it's not only the good vs bad, but it's how you should act, how to progress through life. Because we are capable of transforming the world with our consciences and our communication and our actions, there is no escaping of how you should act. Not only how you should act, but also, how you should act given that there are all these other creatures wondering the same questions and trying to act the same way you are. Nietzsche. Dead of God. He meant. The claims of science are sufficiently radical so it's easy to take them to mean that the landscape of stories that constitutes our archaic culture are invalid. But religion and science are not working on the same problem. But it's been easy from people to become philosophically confused, because it's not self-evident that you may need more than one kind of truth to live. But why we assume that there is only one kind of truth, I think it's related to the pushing humanity for a form of monotheism, a totality of one theory governs all, but we are not at that point yet, so we need all the kinds of truth that we have so we can live properly. Some of those coexist paradoxically, we can live with that for now, and accept it as a necessity that might become clearer across time. So, to be a psychologist, you need to know science, what it is that you are like and what the world it's like. Learn about history and culture, the shared communication between people, what the appropriate ways are to conduct yourself and to what ends should be working. You need to know them, in order to minimize the degree in which you are going to suffer unnecessarily, so it's not optional. Dichotomy between objective reality, a third-person perspective, and the phenomenological experience, it's actually reality. Difference between objective moral, scientific moral, materialistic mythological, all are dichotomies, the relationship being and becoming. Science its methods and results. Formulating behavior and then pairing it with the consciousness of behavior, and communicating in a way that someone else can hypothetically duplicate that. I will judge what you consider it's real by watching how you behave, not by listening what you say about the structure of the world. Regardless of what you all might say about of what you believe about the nature of reality, it's certainly the case that you are going to react as if your own subjectivity is real. You are stuck with acting as your subjectivity is real. The reality of your subjectivity is so deep that you don't even need to have a choice about it. The fundamental problem of is science, what are things made of? But, what I'm going to do, it's the fundamental problem of people. So, there is no shortage of information of how to behave, and about what happens if you break the rules of behavior. Piaget. How to act. You come to the world, with some potential for action. As you organize your body, the manner in which you are organizing your capability for action and perception. It's continually modified by your social interaction with other people. You socialize being, it's built right into your motor circuitry, it's a pattern. The way you express your emotions, it's going to be immediately modified by the necessity of social interaction. Reciprocity, 50-50. Trading experiment. The poorer people are, they are fairer with 50-50. It's built in, morality, as a system to keep going. Reciprocity where it's possible. We need to socialize because we are social creatures. We have to adjust to the family, then to the broader group, acceptable, and then maintain the broader group and contribute to it, or the quality of our experience will fall dramatically. At least uphold a fair bit of your social responsibility. Chimpanzees organize themselves in dominance hierarchies. They have rules, which are rituals of behavior and shared expectations. Because we don't know what are we up to, it doesn't mean that we are not up to something, and doesn't mean that there isn't something that we should be up to. When you are interacting with people, they are broadcasting their desire for you to be some person. They will rather to expect a good sort of person. They want you to listen to them, treat them properly, engage in reciprocal trades, take care from yourself. They are not saying just be yourself, they are saying be what everyone needs. You are informed of what you should be all the time. Morality, there are elements that are fixed and necessarily, and other things that can vary without a problem as long as people agree to it. Piaget, societies that violate the principle of reciprocity are not very stable, even in family. Relationships that are no reciprocal, are not tenable. People that are more agreeable need to speak more about their own needs/desires. So, they can engage in a more reciprocal relationship, so they won't be taking advance on them. A satisfactory in a social context, something that you are doing and you can maintain and you are willing to maintain. So, you want to play with people that are fair to each other. What's the core nature of being? We are limited, thrownness, stuck of what you are, genetic process that are random, and you have to play it. Limitations that you can't ascend. Life is problematic, and you try to solve it. Philosophy and mythology as forms of conceptualization that are examining the grammatical structure of being, what's common to the sets of people. 1. The fact that you are one. 2. The fact that you are has his problems. 3. You are motivated at least to do something about those things. That's what makes people human. So, can we extend our scope of power without causing more problems? That's what enable us to communicate. We understand each other because we are on the same problem of being. Like, we have problems, we looking for solutions and communication about that it's helpful. Wherever you are you have some conceptions of where you are, current understanding of the world. It's flawed. You know where you are, you have a model of what you are. But it's shallow and potentially flawed. But it's in order because everyone agrees to not do anything that violates the rules of social expectation. And have some sense of where you are going, motivation system. Where you are where you are going, think it's better, and you have a theory of how you will reach that goal, but you can make an error throughout and fail. You can be wrong at any level of that plan. Example. A relationship, if you are betrayed, don't know here you are, where are you going, and probably what are you doing. So, you realize of the fragile conceptions of the present, so you are not dealing with the world, you are dealing with a very simplified and presuppositions-based conception of the world. Daoism. You experience is composed of 2 domains. 1 orderly, the place where when you act what you expect happens, but can become too much order, that becomes totalitarian solution, grounded in fear and mostly in disgust. 2 chaotic, where you are when you don't know where you are, mostly when people relationship goes wrong, confronted with the unknown. Yin and yang as masculine and feminine. Human beings have a social cognitive architecture, we use to map the world as masculine and feminine, because throughout all our evolutionary history have been socially and interpersonal interaction. And when we developed greater cognitive capacity and ability to abstract, we used the conceptual structures that we already evolved, to map the world abstractly. Primary binary opposition. Chaos is the place where new information comes out of, so it's feminine because it's where new things emerge. Orderly it's masculine because we conceive of dominance hierarchies as something like a patriarchal structure, among human beings and chimpanzees. Those are universal elements of being, there are things that you know and don't know. That's the fundamental problem of your life. How to deal with the things you know and can predict and want, and how to deal with the things you can't. So, you should walk the line between them, that's the right place to be. If you are where you know what is going to happen. 1. You are not learning anything. 2. Order then to deteriorate by itself, because world change itself. If you are in chaos all the time, you never know what's going on. And you can't tolerate that physiologically. So, you are just expecting the worst. Hell, it's the worst place of chaos. When things go wrong and from your own foolishness or malevolence of other people went from bad to horrible on every decision, and everyone can go to that place. So, you are prepared from everything that might happen. That the general stress response - massive release of cortisol, you are awake and ready, - but too much of that you age faster. Bored or terrified? A little apprehension could be good, you are more conscious and engaged with reality, and positive emotion associated, excitement, enthusiasm, curiosity and hope, worth living for. Don't want to be so orderly that makes you entirely comfortable. So, walk through the lane, where the quality of your existence is high enough so the problems of life are no longer particularly relevant. So, you might ask, what's the meaning of life? It's not a linguistic problem, like suffer it's not a word, it's something that you feel. So, meaning it's something that you feel, stand on the line between order and chaos, you can tell when you are there, because you are, awake and alert, excited and enthusiastic and deep into the moment. And the reason that your nervous system makes that, because it's an evolved system. Because your brain wants you to be in the border of order and chaos, that's where dynamic stability its best attains. How to maintain yourself optimally in a world that continues to transform? And the answer is that, you transform yourself at the rate that keeps you in sync with the transforming environment, and since we are adapted to transforming environment. So, when you feel the best at what you are doing, you shouldn't assume that it's the best at where you could be. So, meaning it's something that you attempt to have it instead of a conceptual answer to a conceptual problem. It's evolved because your hypothalamus send motivated schemes on which you see the world. But when you have doubt with it, defaults to mild exploration by pain, fear, and disgust. So, the optimal state of existence, it engages in interest with what's going on without too much apprehension. That's where information flow maximizes, you become more than you currently are, where your description of the world become deeper and deeper than the one you already have. Sufficiently secure but also engage in a game that ensures that security maintains itself across time. Jung will say, if you try to stay in that line, will lead you to all the places that you don't want to go. Send you to the places in your past that you haven't made complete use of. And all the places that you are avoiding in the future and the present. Repetition compulsion. What is missing in her worldview, that makes that when she acts keep running into the same obstacle? So, need to go back to the beginning to realize what she is missing from his previous experience. And unless you put a limit it's going to chase you, and will get bigger and bigger. Something it's repeating, need to wonder if it's random or I'm making something that increase the probability of that happening. 5 traits are the precondition from your particular story. A set of 5 stories that have a reasonable probability of success. 5 modes of being. Like your trait temperament, does influence the words that you use to describe your spontaneous self-narratives. Analyze your word use and make a guess what is your trait. The plastic people produce more exploratory narrative. The stability people produce narratives associated with security and order. Motivation system. One thing that you want and your plan is good - positive emotions, dopaminergic mediated. 2 things that you don't want happens, a little obstacle appear and you can just fix it. 3 something that completely don't understand happens, and destroy all your plans. The transition where order and chaos occur. So, starts to think of what do you lack, and to improve so won't happen again. Daoism means meaningful, so you should be where things are meaningful, the right place to be. Thriving for an authentic existence. How to structure your life so its quality is sufficient that you don't become resentful and full of hate. You will become that resentful and misery to other people and make their life more miserable as yours. If you don't want to fall down a pit, you have to notice when little problems appear that disturb your equilibrium, produce negative emotion. And they call you this isn't acceptable I should do something about it, and some say, I know what to do, I could do something about it. And if you ignore them, it will create a hole and eventually you will fall in. Wake up, pay attention, if things aren't going the way you want them to, then, do something as fast as you can to say something about it and fix it. And then you get tougher. The more you fight little battles, the better you get at battling. And then you become someone that can say no. The fundamental problems of life are existential, it's what to do. The solution of those problems isn't arbitrary. The wisdom tradition of mankind, and the profound psychological theories that we collected over the last 2000 years, they converged. Get your story straight. If you are avoiding something that you need to do in order to get to where you are going, quit avoiding it, the avoidance will weaken you, and make the world a more terrible place. If you don't fix them, you are a miserable thing, with a very low quality life, and you will be tortured by existence. And then you become a person who isn't predisposal to existence. And anybody who gives you the opportunity to live inside of something rigid and hurt anyone who comes near, you will jump on that, because you are afraid and offer you security, and you are full of resentful and hatred, and waiting to put that into someone, especially if you can act morally and superior while you are doing it. That's basically what Hitler offered to Germans, and Stalin to the communism. An inversion of the order, and everyone who was pathological can become as murderous as they can be. It was a problem of meaning. What we do about that? It was totalitarian and nihilism. Nowadays nihilism is still current. But it's possible that people pay attention to their life to straighten out. If you straight out you get tough and useful. So, life isn't horrible, or at least bearable. Make yourself tough enough so that will not corrupt you, that's a possibility. So, you won't be totalitarian, nihilistic, and a danger to all the things around you. And maybe you will be good for you, your family, community, even works for the planet. A pretty good thing to aim at. Life is hard enough, so you need an adventure. An adventure to justify it, it has to be worth it. See if you can get your act together. Make that your primary goal. Do not avoid things, tell the truth, aim at the highest value. Things start to happen to you. Door will open to you, and make things extraordinary interesting. Once things are extraordinary interesting, the fact that life has its limitations and that it's full of suffering. Well, all things considered, it's not such a bad bargain. So, you might ask. If you are in a situation, your life isn't of sufficient quality. Are you doing absolutely everything you can to fix it? So, let's not draw any final conclusion about the utility of existence and its value, till we are sure that we got our act together and are seeing things straight. That's worth pursuing, that's what you should learn at university. That's the proper path of a citizen. It's the proper path of someone who's attempting to put the world straight, that's the best thing you can do. Not just because it's right. It's because what's right, it's actually what is best for you.